Alexandre Aidara is a district campaign chairman in northern Paris for presidential candidate Emmanuel Macron. Macron and his Marche movement have promised to create new opportunities for people who live in the underprivileged suburbs here. Before the first round of the election earlier this month, Aidara worked hard to get people voting to keep the right-wing extremists at bay. He seems to be preaching to the choir here. This man is already a keen supporter of Macron, but Alexandre stresses the importance of taking the time to vote to keep Le Pen out.
Vive la République.
Vive la République et vive la France.
Their goal is clear, to help make Macron the next president of France.
Donc moi, on a une dizaine comme ça et celui-là.
D'accord, ok.
Every day, Alexandre and his team are out pounding the pavement and drumming up support for their candidate.
Before the end of the week, we want to visit every corner of the district and knock on every door. It's the final phase of the campaign. There's not much time left.
There are lots of high-rise housing estates here. Alexandre is in charge of Macron's campaign in the Seine-Saint-Denis district. In June, Alexandre plans to run for parliament. But first, he's got to knock on some more doors.
Allez-y, madame. Bonsoir pour les élections. Merci.
Okay, people, let's get to work.
Andiamo.
Most of the people who live here in the Valais estate are immigrants. They feel that the politicians have ignored them. Many of them don't even know the date of the election. The campaign workers leave a postcard with the information. We ask whether there's been any negative response to these visits.
Never. At least I haven't seen it. But some say, leave us alone, we're voting for Mélenchon.
This sort of campaigning can have a real effect as the election approaches.
In political jargon, it's called the crystallization phase. People are in the process of making a decision. There are a lot of undecided voters, but now they're making up their minds.
Alexandre's two-room apartment is located nearby. He's turned it into an election campaign office. Alexandre came to France from Senegal at the age of 18 to study. He graduated from the prestigious National School of Administration and has held senior posts as a civil servant. But along the way, he sometimes encountered racism and exclusion.
I remember my first experience very well. I wanted to go to a disco, but they refused to let me in. I was about 18 at the time. I was stunned. You go to a place with your friends, and they can get in, but you can't. I didn't understand at first. But then I realized that this was racism. I had similar experiences when I was looking for an internship and later a job.
Here, Alexandre meets with a press officer. He's been working on Macron's campaign since last October. He signed on in part because he saw that more and more voters were turning to the right-wing extremists.
I think there has been an increase in racism. Even though a lot of immigrants and their children have integrated well and actually do feel French, I certainly do. I took this job because I wanted to show people that most immigrants work hard and obey the law. Some even get into politics.
Handing out flyers at a market in Aubervilliers.
C'est aussi le candidat de l'éducation.
People here are more likely to vote extreme left than extreme right. Still, Alexandre and his team warn local residents about the potential dangers of the Front National.
Marine Le Pen is really anti-immigrant. There are a lot of immigrants here. Some have French citizenship, but others don't. If Le Pen gets in, the authorities will crack down on immigrants who are not citizens.
Alexandre has one meeting after another. It's a full-time job, and people are always calling him on his mobile phone.
I have a private number and a work number, but unfortunately people now have both. So I take business calls on both.
We ask him whether he's good at this job.
Well, I give it my best shot. The most important thing is to believe in what you're doing. I tell my staff that all the time. I say, if you want to go into politics, you have to have ideas, ideals, and values. If you don't, you won't last long.
These are members of Macron's youth organization. They hope that their candidate can change things for the better in this district. Now they're headed for the 93rd département, or 9-3, as they say around here. The district is filled with run-down blocks of flats. Unemployment is high, and so is the crime rate. The Front National says this is part of what's wrong with today's France. But Sarah Jabali, a 26-year-old biology student, says the Front National's claims are based on clichés. Sarah has been doing volunteer work for Macron's party for a few weeks.
Most young people are tired of empty promises and the fact that nothing ever changes. They don't trust anybody anymore. They think all politicians are the same, and that's why they don't vote.
Sarah and the other volunteers haven't met any Front National supporters yet. They usually end up talking to supporters of the left-wing candidate, Jean-Luc Mélenchon.
You people support Macron? I don't believe it. You've really signed up as volunteer campaign workers? You put up posters and hand out flyers? Really? So you support the capitalist system? Hey, let's rip ourselves off. Public services don't matter. Let's get rid of them. That's your vision?
We don't agree on anything, and we're not here to try to convince you.
All business cares about is profits.
I'm sort of a shy person, so this is unusual for me. And it's the first time I've got involved in politics. But I'm learning a lot. Political change is coming, and that motivates me.
These campaign workers are now in the troubled Cité de Franc-Moisin district. It's Sarah's first time here. A lot of people aren't answering the door.
People aren't used to having strangers like us come to visit. They're disillusioned and they've lost faith in politics.
Macron founded his own Marche party a year ago. And they now claim to have more than 250,000 members. That includes more than 4,000 in this département. It's election Sunday. No electioneering is allowed. Alexandre is on his way to his local polling place to vote and to see that there are no violations of election laws. It's not an easy place to find. There aren't any signs that say, vote here. Now Alexandre has something else to worry about.
I insist that you provide equal stacks of ballot papers for each candidate. That's what the law says. So voters won't be influenced one way or the other. These stacks are not equal.
Alexandre obeys the election law to the letter. He won't talk to reporters after he votes. And then he's off to check the next polling place on his list. 11 hours later, the first results start to come in. Macron is doing well. His supporters are celebrating. Macron is just 39 years old. If he's elected, he would be the youngest French president ever. A late-night strategy meeting at a restaurant in the 93rd département. Alexandre discusses the results.
We're celebrating, but we're not going overboard. We're focused on what we have to do next, and that is to unite the people of France against right-wing extremism.
They toast the work they've done so far. But the celebration won't last long. Early the next morning, they'll be back out on the street because every vote counts.